Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. Shara joining us here today. Shara Smile, better known as Shara Carter. Excited to have her here from beautiful Tennessee to talk more about the work she does that is bringing smiles to everyone. And really, it's a pleasure having you here, as we always do for our weekly sessions as a mental health counselor and so much more. Let me have you introduce yourself. And by the way, we're live on the Zoomcast today, too.
Yay! So hi, Jill. I'm having a little bit of hard time hearing you. I don't know what happened from when we were talking before to now.
Okay, 10-987-654-321. Is that
It's a little better. It's a little better.
Okay.
So hi, my name is Shara Carter. My business is Shara Smile. I tell people the way to say my name is Shara Coke, Shara Smile. So I'm a walking Coca-Cola ad, I guess, but I'm not a dentist smile. I work with heart smiles, feeling smiles. So my business is Shara Smile. I'm hoping that I can share my smile with you, and then you can find your smile and then share your smile with someone else.
Oh, so beautiful the way you say that. And, speaking with you the past 2 weeks, I got to know a lot about you, and our listeners today will as well. How do we reach out to you? Tell us all forms of contact before we continue.
Email is sharasmiletoday@gmail.com, and that's SHARA. And my phone number is 703-570-5951. And my website is sharasmile.com.
Exciting. Well, thank you so much for being here. So we're excited to have you here, and we do have specific notes. I did just get your email, by the way. So today's topic, why don't you fill us in? We're going to talk more about talk therapy and if that really works. And for example, what exactly is talk therapy to get started?
Right. Yeah. I thought maybe today we could just I'm hoping to just answer some questions that people might have about counseling in general. So yeah, the first question is about talk therapy. Does it work? Why does it work? How does it work? I just come and I talk. I can talk to friends. I can talk to family. So why would I pay someone to come and talk to them? And I just want to let first, it's an hour focused on you. That session is 100% on you. The counselor, it's not about the counselor talking. There's no ping pong. You tell me a little bit about you, and then I tell you a little bit about me. You can wipe that out of your head. And when you go into your counseling session, that time is completely focused on you. It's a safe environment. It should feel like a secure, comfortable environment. Now, some people aren't 100% comfortable going to counseling initially because they've never done it before. But it is about you. You can go and you can just vent, you can just talk, and then the counselor can be just a sounding board. Sometimes people say, I go in and my counselor doesn't give me any advice. My counselor doesn't tell me what to do. And that's not really what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to help you figure you out, you figure your situation out, you figure your patterns out. So it's all about you. It can be a vent session. It can be a healing process. It can help you look back at your patterns. Sometimes I think what happens is we get stuck. Talking is so much different physiologically and psychologically. Talking, getting out of your body, is very different than just processing it up in your head, like thinking through things. Like, I've thought through this, I've written through it, I've thought through it, I've written through it. I think we get stuck in cycles and patterns in our brain.
True.
And even when we're talking with our friends and family members, they've got a dog in the fight. When you're talking to a friend or family member, they know you, they've been with you, they know your patterns, they know your experience, and they've got a dog in the fight. The counselor does not have a dog in the fight. They are asking you questions, hopefully, to help you get you out of that pattern, out of that cycle. And sometimes the friends and family member are a part of the cycle too. So the outside source, I like to look at myself as a counselor.
Neutral party.
Yeah. I'm like a mirror. I'm reflecting it back. When you go out for the day, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, okay, how do I look? That counselor hopefully is bouncing things back at you, saying, this is what I see, this is what I hear, this is what I'm wondering if people are experiencing. And they're reflecting that back to you so that you can see it from a different perspective, hear it from an outsider source, has no dog in the fight, And they're asking you questions to make you think about it differently, hopefully help you heal because of the safe space, and help you be able to think when you were thinking and processing from a ground level of safety, rather than, I'm talking to my mom or my sister or my brother or my best friend who we have this history together, and my brain is operating out of a different space. And we may not feel 100% safe. We may be thinking like, I have to defend myself. I have to protect myself. I have to work this in a different way. I have to really think about how I'm wording this. All of that is a lot of work. And when you're in the counseling space, you should only feel safe, secure, comfortable. So you don't have to do all of that thinking. All the thinking is on you, how you're processing through things, how you're feeling through things, and how you can hopefully think through things differently, get you unstuck and get you out of the maze of that pattern.
Got it. Wow. So clearly, talk therapy does work, right? I was going to ask you why people choose talk therapy. Did you want to elaborate a little bit more on that?
There's so many different types of therapies, and talking is, I think, the easiest. Sitting and having a chat is pretty. It's an easy place to start. There are so many other different ways, like we talked last week about EMDR.
Hmm.
So there you're using some different modalities. CBT is talking, DBT is talking. So there might be some therapy
Okay.
techniques that are being used, but we're using them with our voice. But there's art therapy, there's drama therapy. So you can be using art, you can be using music, you can be using poetry. There are a lot of different things that people can use to use in a therapeutic way. But, talking is step one. And
Got it.
even though I love to use different modalities, usually my clients and we start with talking, because I need to get to know you a little bit, and you need to get to know me. And it takes time to generate that safety, and that's usually through a conversation. And then I, as a counselor, kind of explore with you, what are you comfortable with? What
Hmm.
might you want to, do you want to, should we pull out some colored pencils, some art, some, or do we need to do some movement, so we might stand up and do some movement. We might, there can be therapeutic modes with like doing some yoga and whatnot, and talking about what's going on in your body as you do these movements. So the step one, I think, is a good safe bet, is to go in and start talking. And then you build
Got
that,
it.
and
Now,
then you explore from there.
how do you know if your counselor is a good fit for you? Could you share
Yeah,
that?
I think there's a few, I was thinking about this question. I was kind of going down, there's so many answers to this, but first I think you have to know what you can afford. So thinking about cost, and doing that, like call your insurance company and ask, what is in network, what is out of a network, and understand. I remember when I was in my 20s and I wanted to go to a counselor, I didn't understand any of that stuff. And I remember even calling the insurance company seemed very awkward to me,
Yeah.
uncomfortable to me, and I didn't understand it. So I just want to encourage people, it's okay if you don't understand it. Just call
Hmm.
your insurance company, get a paper and pencil, write it down. It might be really hard when you're acutely depressed, acutely anxious, and you're having like challenges. I remember, for me, I felt like making that call and asking those questions was so hard, because the life situation was just overwhelming. So to make a call and ask the questions to my insurance company felt uncomfortable, and I didn't like it, and it was just made even harder. So, but I just want to encourage people to make the call, don't feel uncomfortable about it, because that's how we learn. Make the call, ask the questions. So there's in network, there's out of network. So looking into cost, and finding a good fit with cost. You might be able to find a sliding scale fees somewhere. You might be able to find a counselor that's in their residency. They don't have their license yet. That's a lower scale fee. So a group practice might have different levels of clinicians. They might have someone still working on their master,
Hmm.
and in their internship, that might be a lower fee. Then there's those in their residency, and then there's the license. Now, here's the other thing: you might call a group practice and ask them, do you have any counselors that do sliding scale? So even if they're not a nonprofit, you can call a practice and ask them, does anybody do sliding scale, or will they be willing to take on a sliding scale fee? So cost is number one, looking into that cost. Location, I think, is the second thing to think about, because hopefully you're going to be, it's a good fit, and you want to be going to this person like every week for a while, or every other week. It depends on what your need is. But so thinking about the traffic, thinking about when you're going, thinking about how far they are away from your friends and family. Do you want them far away from friends and family? Do you want it close so you can just bop on down the road and get to them quickly? So location is important. The other thing I think that kind of COVID gave to us is the telehealth option. So telehealth might be a good option. Telehealth is not for everyone, for sure. But asking your counselor, the counselor that you're considering, are they willing to go to a telehealth option if you're not feeling well, or if the traffic's bad, or you have like an online, or you had to have a meeting scheduled at last minute and you can't get there because of traffic or because of driving? Are they willing to like flip over to telehealth if you need to?
Okay.
So asking some of these questions: cost, location, telehealth. And then there's the fit. Just when you get into that session and you meet your counselor, you want to feel safe. You want to feel like you can trust them. You want to feel validated. You want to feel heard. And you want to feel like you're learning something. Counseling is not always easy, and it doesn't always feel like this soft, cushy cloud. Sometimes in counseling, you're coming up against some really hard issues, and it feels like crap, to be honest. People are crying, people are having like emotional moments.
Yeah.
So it's not always easy, and people don't always like coming and uncovering all that stuff. But if you feel like even in your discomfort, you're in a place of safety and you're with someone that is valuing your emotional experience, and they're validating that emotional experience, and they're giving you words or thoughts or ways to think about that to help you feel like it's a healing process.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Thank you for all these questions. And, how do you know if counseling is working for you? Well, because people might say it's not working, or it is. How do you really know? Is there a certain amount of time that you have to commit to working with someone? And it's also the accountability factor, right? Of you really wanting to make a change in some aspect.
Sure. So first of all, it does take time. There's like no magic wand. But I always suggest 2 to 4 sessions to kind of give your sense a feel of, is this person, do I like them? Are they working for me? And during that 2 to 4 sessions, if there are things that are coming up for you about the therapeutic relationship, if you're feeling a lack of trust, if you're wondering about things and you don't know why they said this or did that, or, like I had a counselor, he was always late. But he always told me he was going to be late. So I would always have to say, okay, is this something that I need to expect? And I would talk to him about his lateness and the feelings of his being late, the feelings that I had. And we would talk through that in session. There's some of that stuff that's very valuable in that therapeutic relationship that you as a client might feel like things are coming up, like anger or, being dissatisfied or whatnot. That might be some stuff that's going on with you in the real world, and you can address that and use that therapeutic relationship to help you process and learn something about yourself. So how do you know if it's working for you? Give it 2 to 4 sessions, always bring stuff up in session.
Okay.
It takes time. I think it's important to start feeling better, and you don't feel better right off the bat. And like I said, going to counseling is hard. And so you might really feel awful in some of that process, but somewhere in the back of your mind to think, okay, I'm thinking about things differently. I'm doing a few things differently, like I'm practicing some of the things that my counselors asked me to do, and I'm noticing some changes in me, and I'm noticing changes in my environment or my relationships. If you're noticing some of those things, that's good. That's like it's working. Just know that you to take time with it and be patient.
Got it. All right. Good to know. Also, people say, well, how do I find a good counselor? Right. You can ask friends of friends. Sometimes you're embarrassed. You don't want people to know. So is there certain websites we can go to that people are accredited by a certain, association?
Yeah.
How do we know? And where
Well,
can we find them?
yeah, we mentioned those in a couple of the other podcasts. So I'm just going to mention the ones I'm listed on
Sure.
because, hey, because I want people to find me.
Of
But
course.
and I want people to share where they can find me, but you can find lots of other counselors here too. So I would always start with Psychology Today. And I'm surprised when people say they haven't heard of Psychology Today, because it's a very, very well-known, reputable place to do a search for a counselor. And they do kind of a vetting. They look through and make sure that you're licensed and you're licensed in good standing and whatnot. So Psychology Today, I'm listed there. Lots of counselors to look for there. Theravive, I'm on Theravive. And again, there's a lot. So Theravive, I had to go through pages and pages of inputting information about who I am and what I do, my modalities, whatnot. So Theravive is very thorough. ZenCare is another platform that I'm on, and they are nice. They have like a little video. They had me do videos, and they helped me set up with photos. So it's every platform has a little bit of a different nuance. As I mentioned before, the National Board of Certified Counselors, NBCC, has, you can go and you can search for counselors in NBCC. And I didn't know that until I did a little research for this podcast. I didn't know that they had their counselors that are with them, that are nationally certified counselors, listed there, and you can search by state. I'm with the Board of Chamber of Commerce. I mean, I'm not the board. I'm with the Chamber of Commerce. And so the Chamber of Commerce might be your Chamber of Commerce, where you're living, might be a good place to look for counselors, because I'm on there. And I'm also on ChristianCounselorDirectory.com. Now, those are just four, well, those are 6 places, but 4 like counselor directories online. There are so many counselor directories online. A lot of people find me by Googling me, counselors near me, or, Christian counselors, or counselors for teens, or counselors for couples. So doing a Google search. And then I would really recommend, once you pull up the Google search, go to that counselor's website, and then, or that group practice website, and then start reading through and finding, if there are reviews, or they're for referrals. I've gone through, and on my website, there's, people that I've worked with in the past, not all clients, but other people in my vast working experience, have essentially kind of put in a word of recommendation to say, I've worked with Shara. So I would say look for those types of things. If you don't want to ask, friends or family or whatnot, just do your research online and look for the referrals, and definitely, check out that National Board of Certification, National Board of Certified Counselors, maybe your Chamber of Commerce as well.
Got it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Also, how long does it take, would you say, for counseling to work? We just kind of touched upon that a little bit. Normally, is there a certain minimum recommendation?
So it could take a few months, it could take a few years. Everybody's different. There's really there's really no quick answer to how long a counseling works, because everybody is so different. I would say, so in my second session with clients, one of my first questions is, what stuck with you from the first session? And that gives me information about what is and is not helpful. And I will ask that through our therapeutic relationship, like, what's sticking with you? What do you feel is working? What do you feel is helpful? And I when I hear that information come back to me, oops, sorry about that. That gives me a direction with the client and movement with the client. So hopefully you, as the client, are noticing, all right, I'm making steps forward. This person that I'm working with is giving me tools, techniques, different ways to look at things, different way to process relationships. And I always tell my clients as well, one of the goals is for you to fire me one day. Now, not every client will one day just not need their account, will get better. Sometimes people need to keep checking in, either whether it's, every other week or monthly. So everybody's need is different. But my hope is that when clients come in and start work with me, we check in like 3 to 4 months. After 3 or 4 months, I create a treatment plan that has goals and objectives. And I send that to my clients, and I have them look over those goals and objectives. And after we've been working together for a while, we'll pull that treatment plan up, and I'll say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, when we first started, where were you on this goal? And I just was with a client, and they're like, oh, well, when we started, I was at a 1. Like, I didn't do that at all, or I felt terrible with this one, and so they started off very low. And now that we've been working together a few months, they're like an 8 or a 9. And so I was seeing that as very, very positive. Well, this particular client wanted to do better. She wanted all 10s. And let's be gentle, be gentle with yourself. You don't have to make all 10s. Going from a 1 to a 6 or 7 or an 8 is tremendous growth. So being able to look at some goals and have something on paper to go back to, I think will give you an idea as a client, like, oh, this is working for me, and I want to keep doing this for a little while longer, or maybe I'm going to back off and not come as regularly. So it really depends on what your need is and how it's feeling for you, for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. And also, also comes to affordability. Are counselors covered under insurance? And people don't have insurance. What can someone do if they can't afford the counseling, but they really need it? Is there anything that our states offer? Can you go over that with us?
Yeah. So again, I would recommend calling your insurance. First is going to insurance to understand what they'll cover, if anything, for mental health services. So, a lot of counselors these days are self-pay. And so looking at out of network. Now, what I do is I'll provide a super bill, which is essentially a receipt with all the numbers and the symbols to tell an insurance company, this is the diagnostic code and this is what we're doing. So then I will give a client that insurance or that super bill to provide to their insurance so they can get reimbursed. But if you can't afford it, like I was mentioning before, definitely call group practices and ask them if they have anybody in their residency or anybody doing their internship that has a lower fee. Ask if there's anyone that will do a sliding scale in their group. There are nonprofit organizations that are focused on mental health. We have a great one here in Franklin called The Refuge. And I just learned about another one called Branches. I was going to look into it, Branches, but those are two that I know of right off the bat that are excellent, and they're nonprofits, and they do offer sliding scale fee. Oftentimes they're booked up because there's a high demand for them. But searching nonprofits in your area, in Vienna, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., when I was there, the Women's Center was a nonprofit that I worked for, and they were excellent. Also going to your government website, like your Williamson County or Fairfax County or whatever county you live in, and looking into mental health services. Sometimes there are government agencies that offer community mental health services for lower fees. So Mercy is this one here as well. That's another good one to check out. So definitely, at the Women's Center, we had sliding scale as low as $20 a session. And that was for when I was earning my master's and in my program. Now, someone that is in their internship, that the internship means they haven't finished their master's yet. They're practicing and they're getting hours to earn their master's. They're under supervision, so they're working with one or more licensed counselors that are probably their professors or whatnot, and they're heavily supervised. So you still can feel very safe if you're working with someone doing their internship, and you can still feel very safe with you're working with someone that has their master's but not their license yet, because they are supervised as well. So those are two kind of levels of clinicians. Going to a college, contacting a college that has counseling programs, and asking them if you can get into as a client into seeing some of the the students. So calling the colleges in your area that have counseling programs so that you can be a client for those that are earning their master's programs too.
Got it. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that information. And overall today, let's just kind of summarize, the conversation about talk therapy, about Shara, what she can help us with, and we want to find out how we can contact you. So do you want to leave off for today's show?
Yeah, well, first, Jill, it's been great talking with you for these 5 weeks. I've enjoyed.
Are we done?
I think this is number 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know. Thank you. Oh,
Yeah. So this has been really fun. It's been a great experience for me. One of the reasons I wanted to do this was, this is a very different experience for me. And I wanted to step outside my comfort zone because it's important for me to always be learning and always be growing. And so when I get a little bit nervous about something, I know that I'm in a place of growth. So you have allowed me a space of growth, and I appreciate that.
thank you. You're amazing. You're such a kind soul, and you've always been. And now I get to see you today here in person, even better. But thank you for being so helpful, positive, and wanting to help others. And clearly, that's what you do. So,
And I do. So sharasmile.com is my website.
mhm,
Shara Smile Today is my email.
okay.
And 703-570-5951. I don't have it memorized yet. So
It's okay. Thank you so
5951 is
much.
my business
Well, I
number.
won't say goodbye. I'll say see you soon. All right.
Yes,
We'll
absolutely.
connect again, I'm sure. Thanks again. Have a great day.
All right. Bye-bye, Jill.
Bye bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.